first to move on.
Let's make sure everybody has a copy of the report. Have we gotten the copies? Okay.
Like first to move a motion for this Senate to reconvene formally. I move a motion that
Leader, not to reconvene, resume plenary.
and the day. I so move.
Minority Leader.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion that we do resume plenary to consider the rest of the items on the other paper. I so second.
Thank you. Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate resumes plenary in order to consider the report of our Committee on Appropriations, say aye. Those against, any, the ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the fourth order of the day is the presentation and consideration of the report of the Committee on Appropriations on the 2022 Appropriation Act Amendment Bill 2022. Mr. President, you may wish to invite distinguished Senator Barrow Jibril, Chairman of the Committee on Appropriations, to move the motion for the presentation and consideration of the report.
Distinguished Senator Barrow Jibril.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am Barrow Jibril. I stand to move that this August sitting do receive and consider a report of the Committee on 2022 Appropriation Act Amendment Bill 2022 SB 950 and SB 995. So moved.
I need a seconder. Distinguished Senator Ibrahim Abdullah Gobir.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. My name is Ibrahim Abdullah Gobir. I second that the Senate will receive and consider the report of the Committee on 2022 Appropriation Act Amendment Bill 2022, SB 950 and SB 994. I so second.
Thank you. Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate do receive and consider the report of the Committee on Appropriations on the 2022 Appropriation Act Amendment Bill 2022, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. You may let the report, Mr. Chairman. Chairman, you now present the report, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Once again, I am Senator Barrow Jibril. I represent Canada North in this August Senate. Mr. President, I stand to read a report of the Senate Committee on Appropriations on the Appropriation Act 2020 Amendment Bill SB 950. You may recall that the bill for the Act to amend the Appropriation Act 2022 in the sum of 106,161,499 naira, 50 kobo only for capital expenditure, and 43.8 billion for the current expenditure was read the first time on Tuesday, 15 February 2022. When the President of the Senate read the communication from the President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency Muhammad Buhari, CFR when the bill was forwarded. The Senate read it the second time on Wednesday, the second day of March 2022, and referred same to the Committee for Further Legislative Action after the debate on the general principles. Mr. President, the Senate may also recall that the 2022 Appropriation Bill was passed into law by the National Assembly on Tuesday, the 21st December 2021, in the sum of 16,391 billion, and was assented to by the President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federation, Muhammad Buhari, GCFR, on Friday, the 31st day of December 2021, after having some concern on the act. 2. Object of the bill. Fundamentally, the bill seeks, among other things, to make additional provision of a sum of 2.55 trillion to fully fund the petrol subsidy in the year 2022. And the reinstatement or restoration of budgetary costs made by NAS from key capital projects in the 2022 proposed budget by the executive arm in the sum of 106,161 million. And recurrent expenditure in the sum of 43,370 million. And to also delete all projects that were thought to have been duplicated in the 2022 budget act, and so on and so forth. Legislative action. Considering the circumstance and the nature of the amendments sought, and the fact that the committee was mandated to report on the bill within 1 week, the leadership of the Senate and the House of Representatives committees on appropriation consulted with the National Assembly leadership, as well as held several meetings with the Honorable Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning in all aspects of the request. And what I present today, or what I'm presenting now, is the outcome of the interaction. The committee processed the bill together with House of Representatives counterparts, and what is here before you as a report is a harmonized report of the two committees of the both chambers. Revenue projection. In processing the request, the committee was also guided by the approved amendment to the revenue projection by the National Assembly as contained in the table below, which is before you. I don't need to read that. You may permit me that I don't need to read that. Number 6, additional request for inclusion in the appropriation bill. While considering the bill, the Senate received a letter from Mr. President, which was read on Tuesday, the 12th day of April 2022, requesting for additional funds for inclusion in the amendment as follows. 1, an additional increase of 1 billion to the sum of a trillion, to the initial sum of 2.5 trillion sought for payment of petroleum motor spirit. Sorry, it's not billion, it's trillion. PMS, following the decision of the executive arm of government to suspend the initial decision of the executive arm of government to suspend the removal of the subsidy in 2022. Number 2, additional provision of 8.45 billion to cater for the needs of the Nigerian police force, to enhance their morale. Also, 3, the aggregate increase sought by the executive is 192.52 billion. However, the executive also requested for reduction in statutory transfers of some agencies totaling 6.07 billion. 66.07 billion. Recommendation. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, in line with the aforementioned, the committee recommends the amendment of the 2022 Appropriation Act as follows. A bill for an act to authorize the issue from the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the Federation, the total sum of 17,319,704,091,019 naira only, of which 817,699,410,210 naira only is for statutory transfers. 3,978,087,110,437 naira only is for debt service. 7,108,621,131,849 naira only is for recurrent non-debt expenditure, while the sum of 5,415,206,438,523 naira only is for contribution to the Development Fund for capital expenditure for the year ending on the 31st December 2022. Conclusion, Mr. President. On behalf of the committee, I wish to thank the leadership and indeed all the distinguished senators for the support that was given to the committee during this assignment. Mr. President, I so submit.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I will invite for any comments, but before then, I just want to find out whether the details, the two appropriation committees have taken care of the funds for the SDG projects, whether they have, you have provided the appropriate title for the provision so that we don't miss anything.
Sir, I've assured the SDG committee chair that the money has been captured and the money will be disbursed as appropriate. I will follow up until no kobo remains unfunded in respect of that provision. Thank you, sir.
Senator Leko Mustafa.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just like you have observed, I want to call your attention to page 10. Item is... Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to, with due respect, I would like to call your attention to item 188 on page 10. There is no, it is just special intervention projects. It does not capture under which agency this amount has been allocated, and it's an amount of 20 billion naira. And I think it is proper for us for it to be captured under SDG, so that something, the kind of misplacement that happened about 2 years ago will not occur again.
Chairman.
Mr. President, there's a little disagreement between the Committee on Appropriation of the Senate and that of the House, because in the House it's not the SDG committee that handles this same project. So the nomenclature becomes a problem, but I have been given the assurance, and indeed I have told the chairman, not once, not twice, that I will follow up and make sure that the entire money is, the entire project is funded and appropriately. So there's no problem at all, no cause for concern.
You take full responsibility. Senator Philip Tanima Dura, Minority Whip.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, mine is just the clause 11 in the letter of Mr. President, which had insisted that that clause was inconsistent with the Public Procurement Act, but I can see that it's been brought back on as number 10, where though they have a bit tried to cure it by saying that the executive circular and the provision of the Public Procurement Act, that is, the missions and embassies and shall constitute their tenders board as in a parastatal tenders board. You know, all I'm trying to say here is that I hope it does not really clash with the Procurement Act, and if there are laws that can cure it, or laws that we can put together that can make the embassy spend money on their own, of course, is welcome. But I think that as it is now, the President has written that it should be repealed, but I can see that it's here. But if it's our general view that we look at it and agree on it, so be it, but so that we are not having the President to bring back or...
Chairman, please, I hope you have listened to what you said. Okay, respond, please.
Yeah, this has also been a subject of disagreement between the Senate and the House. And I think if we decide to kind of stretch that argument, it will lead to maybe taking us to conference committee. So I think the leadership will discuss that and make sure that there won't be any problem after the passage. Because if we decide to touch it now, it will bring about going to conference committee, and we don't have time. We want this budget to be implemented so that Nigerians will have the benefit of what you have done in the Appropriation Act. So I want to advise that after the passage, His Excellency Mr. President will discuss with the Speaker, and this thing will be cleared amicably, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. Not to take us back on this issue of SDG, I think what we used to do when I was chair of occupation is to put the two provisions for the House and the Senate separately. We used to put the one for the Senate, it used to be 20, 8 for the Senate, 12 for the House, in the same service-wide votes, and also indicate SDG. In this case, if the House doesn't want SDG, they don't have SDG committee to revise it, we can put our own 8 billion SDG. Then 12 billion, whatever committee they have there in the House, they can also put it. But this is for future because there's no time. Because if we do that now, there will be need for conference. Otherwise, these have been the solution. That's what we used to do throughout our 4 years. I don't know why we are not following the same footstep.
Yeah, I think, is it about the SDG thing? I think we don't have to overflog it because everybody here agrees that it should be captured properly and appropriately. Now, because of, just like you said, we don't have time. Because ordinarily we should have done it that way. If the House doesn't want it as SDGs, that is theirs. The Senate should have gone for SDGs for our own projects. But now, I think I will plead with us that since the chairman of our Committee on Appropriations promised here that nothing untoward will happen to the funds for SDGs for the Senate, we hold him responsible. Otherwise, if we change anything now, especially this splitting, we have to go into harmonization. And definitely that is not the kind of thing that we want. But it's for us to trust that the chairman will take full responsibility. But even if he takes full responsibility and everything is implemented, the 2023 budget, it should be different. We should revert to that old way of splitting. Even if it works, we should revert to that 8 and 12. Senator Mohamed Anjumoguje.
Thank you, Mr. President, for that clarification. The important thing is also to ensure that the SDG committee in the Senate is given the mandate to oversee the project. Otherwise, the project will just be hanging like this.
No, they can't be hanging because these are SDG projects and the Committee on SDGs is responsible for that. That's their mandate. Senator Aisha too. Okay. The minority leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like the chairman to properly explain item 4, corrigendum. At what point will you do it? And at what point will the National Assembly issue the corrigendum? And because for some of us, I think some projects are now being said to be domiciled in the wrong ministry or agency. So I would like an explanation from you so we know what to do.
Chairman.
Yeah, I was told by the minority leader about a letter that was sent to him, this morning in respect of some of his projects. We'll follow that up and make sure that we'll find the legal way to assuage those feelings. I'm going to interact with anybody who has that kind of problem, and we'll find a way of solving it. So. Yeah. So anybody who has that kind of problem, but that's how we've been saying it that even as part of our the brief we always give, part of ways and things that need to be done during the processing of the appropriation bill, that every item of expenditure should be placed in an agency or ministry that has the mandate, the legal mandate to execute such projects. So this has been the reason why we're having this kind of problem. But this should be a kind of something so that by next year appropriation bill, we should be mindful of where we take our money to. We shouldn't take our money to where that agency does not have the mandate.
I don't understand what you are talking about, but my understanding of 4 is that agencies of government can come to the National Assembly and say they want their money on this shifted to that. Is that the case?
Well, I didn't go into that. What for corrigendum, sir? Normally it's where we have mistakes. When there are mistakes, then we...
Okay, what qualifies an item of expenditure to be treated through corrigendum?
Through human error. Through human error. A project is situated in a place that is not supposed to be placed. Then we correct that. It's created to kind of make correction in terms of human...
Because you see, the point is, it shouldn't be too open and then somebody abuses it. Okay. I've taken note of what the minority whip commented on 10. There is need for us to be mindful of compliance with public procurement. I have no objection to what is here, so long as it doesn't contravene any section of the public procurement. And you are sure? So leader, we go into Committee of Supply to consider the report. But once again, Chairman, you are fully responsible for SDG projects. And the Committee on SDGs of the Senate will be in charge. All right, leader.
Before I move a motion on the issue of on the Committee of Supply, I would like to advise that the issue that has been raised by Mr. Aduda be looked at, when we come back, even after this has gone through, so that the Committee on Foreign Affairs with the Ministry will sit down and make a proposal, so that the status of our various embassies will be very clarified, under the law. For me, I am sure that absolute centralization will not work, and then allowing them also to completely depend everything on what is done in Abuja would also not work. So a halfway house has to be found, whereby they can be able to operate as parastatals, so that some level of expenditure should be allowed to them within some limits, so that we can legislate on the issue and resolve this matter once and for all. Otherwise, next year, we'll go to the same problem again. Mr. President, with this, I would like to move that the Senate resolves in the Committee of Supply, to consider this amendment. I so move.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate resolves into Committee of Supply to consider the report of our Committee on Appropriations, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, we start from page 3. We start from page 3 of this document, the bill. Yes. Schedule. Revenues, say part A, clap. Let's go. Schedule. Revenues, part A, share of federation revenues. Part B, independent revenues. Part C, dividends. Part D, aid and grants. Part E, special funds and accounts, receipts. Part F, government-owned enterprises, net of operating surplus. Part G, others. Aggregate revenues, stock inflows, 10 trillion, 740 billion, 803 million, 831,543 naira. Expenditures, part H, statutory transfers, part I, debt service sinking fund, part J, recurrent non-debt expenditure, part K, capital expenditure, part L, others. Aggregate expenditure, 17 trillion, 319 billion, 704 million, 91,019 naira only. Surplus, deficit, 6 trillion, 578 billion, 900 million, 259,476 naira only. We go to financing items. Part M, debt financing. Part N, asset sales and privatization. Part O, multilateral and bilateral project-tied loans. Aggregate financing items, 6,386,070,086,149 naira only. Schedule Part A, share of federation revenues. Federal government share of main pool, federal government share of VAT pool, total share of federation revenues 5,318,355,490 naira only. Part B, independent revenues, tax revenues, non-tax revenues, operating surplus, total independent revenues 1,816,217,091,424 naira only. Schedule Part C, dividends. NLNG, Bank of Industry BOI, total dividends 195,716,305,950 naira only. Schedule Part D, aid and grants. Foreign aid and grant in cash. Total aid and grants 63,376,918,168 naira only. Part E, schedule special levies and accounts, transfers to CRF, stroke CDF. Special levies and accounts, special accounts, total special levies and accounts 300 billion. Schedule Part F, government-owned enterprises. Government-owned enterprises, GOEs operating surplus, 80% of which is captured in independent revenue. Total GOEs revenue, net of operating surplus, 1,728,388,788. I take this again. 1,728,389,278,788 naira only. Part G, others. Education tax, debt fund, signature bonus, renewals, domestic recoveries, plus assets, plus fines, share of oil price royalty, total others 710,730,172,190 naira only. Those in favor of those schedules so far mentioned stand part of this bill. Say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Schedule Part G, statutory transfers. National Judicial Council, Niger Delta Development Commission, Universal Basic Education, National Assembly Office, Senate, House of Representatives, National Assembly Service Commission, legislative aids, No, Part G is divided into sub-Gs. The G is on page 5. Page 5, right? On top is Part G. So is what we have, the Schedule G, statutory transfers, is just the details of the upper G. But Chairman, can you explain?
Very clear. The other one is orders, the other one is statutory transfers. They are subdivided. That's what it means.
Mr. President, I think they should be different. The G at the top is not related to the G at the bottom. They are not, the bottom is not an explanation or is not an expansion of the G at the top. So it should have been G, H, then continues. We duplicated the G. The G is duplicated, Mr. President. Okay.
You have it, it's not duplicated. It's normal something. It doesn't, others statutory transfer, they are different. You have H down there. It's not something to hold on to now. The first one is G orders. The second one is G statutory transfer. They are not the same, sir.
This is just a mistake in notation, Mr. President. You know, when you look at page 4, you see it's a continuation of what we have running from page 3. A, B, C, D, E, F. Now that particular section which they took to this page should have come as others, which is different from 25. So it should have come as others under the same run of projects. Under the EF, you see that schedule they should have numbered the schedules. You know, that schedule shares of federation revenues, independent revenues, dividends, aids and grants, then accounts, special levies, and government-owned enterprises, then others. That's the problem, that you have taken it out of sync with it's one connecting, it is connected to the previous section, not to this one. This one is another schedule which has with statutory transfers. Unless it is going to be taken as... They are not connected. It's others with the other sections. It's the way in which they do the... It's a mistake. It's a mistake. Let's correct it. It's a mistake.
It's a matter of style, but if the Senate feels next time we shouldn't do it this way, we'll change it. And then, because we have H down the line, we have H. No, G, excuse me. But we have H down. If we had, assuming we don't have H down, then that would have been another thing altogether. But next time we'll start H from the top. So they will start from where we say. Next time we start H from the top. That's all.
So you see the others. If you look at the character of each, education tax is a revenue. Signature bonus is a revenue. Domestic recoveries, these are revenues. Share of oil price royalty revenue. So they are revenues. They are not expenditures. I therefore find it difficult to agree that they are different from F. There should be continuation of F, because F is also revenue. Yes, these are revenues. So, but I don't know. Sorry, the Deputy Chief Whip.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If you look at the numbering from beginning, The schedules were numbered starting from page, that is page 3. And if you look at it, all those independent headings that carries A have sub-headings under them. So I think if you look at it, A, B, C, D, E, F. Now at the point we're talking about is supposed to be G, others, and then the next G ought to be H, and then the last H should have been I. Then that flows. Because if you look at the subheading under each of those main headings, they are captured differently. The other one is talking about education tax, and the other one is talking about government-owned enterprises, that is F. The essence is for us to just see another thing. It's a flow. Maybe there's an error, and I think we should. That's the only way we can understand it, otherwise. Sir.
Sir, normally we have these arrangements submitted to us from the executive arm of government. Now, since it has been arranged this way, I think it's a matter of style. Let's do this. Next time we let them understand that the Senate is not happy with the way they're arranging their no. Okay, we'll do the if it's a mistake, then we'll do the correction. But if we decide to change the nomenclature, if we decide to change the arrangement now, that will not be okay because the House also is passing the same thing. You can't change it. You go to Congress committee.
Mr. President, this issue has already been concluded. Even if we change it now, it will not reflect the same thing will be repeated. So the issue is to make our observation that there has been a mistake here, where they confounded the revenue so that they can have a complete new nomenclature so that they can put them properly. So the issue for us is to note and then draw the attention of the Budget Office of the Federation so that they can note this and make effect corrections. That's all.
I think we have gotten a way out of it. Since this thing came like this, we pass it like this, but in conveying the document to the executives, we should make a mention of this particular anomaly. That's what we need to do. We shouldn't change it now. Yes, so that they should know whether they correct it there or not. We should point it out. Because if we change it now, definitely it will not fit into their system. Yes, Senator Goji, you know that one. It will not fit into their system if we change it. So we can advise them to change it. Okay. So we go back to Schedule Part G. That is the statutory transfers. That was where we were. We are on page 5. Schedule Part G, statutory transfers. Statutory transfers, National Judicial Council, Niger Delta Development Commission, Universal Basic Education, National Assembly Office, Senate, House of Representatives, National Assembly Service Commission, Legislative Aids, PAC Senate, PAC House of Representatives, General Services, National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies, NILS, Service-wide Vote, Office of Retired Clerks and Permanent Secretaries, Appropriation Committee Department, Senate, Appropriation Committee Department, House, National Assembly Library Building ongoing, hosting of Conference of Speakers of African Parliaments, COSAP, NAS liabilities, NAS e-library, NAS dashboard, Constitution review, total National Assembly, 153,100,650,000 naira only. Those support that this remains part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay, the ayes have it. Public Complaints Commission, Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, National Human Rights Commission, Northeast Development Commission, Basic Health Care Fund, National Agency for Science and Engineering Infrastructure, NASENI. Total statutory transfers, 817 billion 699 million 410,000 2,210 naira only. Those who are at this stands part of this bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Schedule Part H, debt service. Domestic debts, foreign debts, subtotal 3 trillion 685 billion 375 million 317,302 naira only. Those who are at this stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Sinking fund to retire maturing loans, subtotal 292 billion 711 million 703,135 naira only. Those who are at this sinking fund subtotal stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Total debt service 3 trillion 978 billion 87 million 110,437 naira only. Those who are at this total debt service remains part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. We are on page 6. Schedule Part I, recurrent non-debt expenditure. Executive, Presidency, Defense, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Federal Ministry of Information and Culture, Ministry of Interior, Office of the Head of the Civil Service of the Federation, Auditor General for the Federation, Federal Ministry of Police Affairs, Federal Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy, National Security Advisor, Infrastructure Concession Regulatory Commission, Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Federal Ministry of Special Duties and Intergovernmental Affairs, Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, Federal Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, Federal Ministry of Labor and Employment, Federal Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation, Federal Ministry of Transport, Federal Ministry of Aviation, Federal Ministry of Power, Ministry of Petroleum Resources, Ministry of Mines and Steel Development, Federal Ministry of Works and Housing, National Salaries, Incomes and Wages Commission, Fiscal Responsibility Commission, Federal Ministry of Water Resources, Federal Ministry of Justice, Independent Corrupt Practices and Related Offences Commission, Federal Capital Territory Administration, Federal Ministry of Niger Delta Headquarters, Federal Ministry of Youth and Sports Development, Federal Ministry of Women Affairs, Federal Ministry of Education, Federal Ministry of Health, Federal Ministry of Environment Headquarters, National Population Commission, Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development. Subtotal executive is 4 trillion 82 billion 883 million 337,913 naira only. Those who are at this stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Federal executive bodies, Code of Conduct Bureau, Code of Conduct Tribunal, Federal Character Commission, Federal Civil Service Commission, Police Service Commission, Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission. Subtotal 10 billion 928 million 838,073 naira only. Those who are at this stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Government-owned enterprises is 1 trillion 84 billion 26 million 783,067 naira only. Those who are at this stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Pension, gratuities, and retirees benefits. Total allocation is 577 billion 862 million 188,757 naira only. Those who are at this stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Office of the Head. Office of the Head of Service, Civil Service, Civilian Pension, gratuities, pensions, pension running cost, unfunded liabilities, military pensions and gratuities, DNF, pensions, expected retirees, death benefits, administrative charges, pension running cost, medical retirees, arrears of gratuities January 2019 to December 2021, arrears of pensions January, is it something? Okay, arrears of pensions January 2019 to December 2021, arrears of death benefits January 2019 to December 2021, arrears of pensions as a result of consequential adjustment on pensions April 2019 to April 2021, NHIS military retirees including arrears, DIA civilian staff pension and gratuities, pension, gratuity, administrative charges including verification, police pension and gratuities, pensions, pension running cost, and funded liabilities. Customs, Immigration and Prison Pension Office, pensions, pension running cost, and funded liabilities, universities pension including arrears, pensions, parastatals pension and railway pensions, Department of State Security, pension including arrears, gratuity, death benefits, Nigeria Intelligence Agency, pensions, dependence benefits, pension running cost, establishment of NI pension, NEMCO pensions and arrears, pension running cost, other pensions, arrears of pension liabilities, defunct privatized agencies pension, payment into the redemption fund, pension protection fund, benefits of retired heads of service and permanent secretaries and professors, severance benefits of retired heads of government agencies and parastatals, entitlements of former presidents and heads of states and vice presidents and chief of general staff. Those in favor that other service-wide votes, payment of outstanding death benefit to civil servants and police, group life assurance for all MDS including DSS and insurance of sensitive assets, corpus plus administration and monitoring public service wage adjustment for MDS including arrears of promotion and salary arrears and payment of service severance benefits and minimum wage related adjustments, military operations, Lafayette Dole and other operations of the armed forces, settlement of MDS electricity bill dates, IPPIS capturing and monitoring, margin for increases in costs and recurrent adjustments cost, presidential amnesty program, reintegration of transformed ex-militants, service-wide training of budget and planning officers on GIVMIS budget preparation system, BPS, as well as monitoring and evaluation of all projects nationwide, National Social Investment Program, NSIP recurrent, contingency recurrent, international sporting competitions, TSA operations, Employee Compensation Act, Employees Compensation Fund, contributions to international organizations, Gavi and immunization, police operations fund, hazard allowance for health workers, outstanding benefit, repairs and rehabilitation of damaged infrastructure of NPF, national poverty reduction with the growth strategy, FGM, comment, including NSIP, upscaling, total CRF charges, 1,932,782,172,797 naira only. Those in favor that this stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Total recurrent non-debt stands at 7,181,621,131,849 naira only. Those in favor that this total recurrent non-debt stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. We are on page 9 now. Part G, capital expenditure. Part J, capital expenditure. Executive, Presidency, Defense, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Federal Ministry of Information and Culture, Ministry of Interior, Office of the Head of the Civil Service of the Federation, Auditor General for the Federation, Federal Minister of Police Affairs, Federal Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, National Security Advisor, Infrastructure Concession Regulatory Commission, Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Federal Minister of Special Duties and Intergovernmental Affairs, Federal Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development, Federal Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Federal Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Federal Minister of Labor and Employment, Federal Minister of Science, Technology and Innovation, Federal Minister of Transport, Federal Minister of Aviation, Federal Minister of Power, Minister of Petroleum Resources, Ministry of Mines and State Development, Federal Minister of Works and Housing, National Salaries, Incomes and Wages Commission, Fiscal Responsibility Commission, Federal Minister of Water Resources, Federal Minister of Justice, Independent Corrupt Practices and Related Offences Commission, Federal Capital Territory Administration, Federal Ministry of Niger Delta Headquarters, Federal Ministry of Youth and Sports Development, Federal Ministry of Women Affairs, Federal Ministry of Education, Federal Ministry of Health, Federal Ministry of Environment Headquarters, National Population Commission, Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development. Subtotal stands at 2,739,869,350,452 naira only. Those who are at this stands part of the bill say aye. Those against any ayes. Federal executive bodies, Code of Conduct Bureau, Code of Conduct Tribunal, Federal Character Commission, Federal Civil Service Commission, Police Service Commission, Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission. Subtotal federal executive bodies stands at 3,073,030,385 naira only. Those who are at this stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Government-owned enterprises, multilateral stroke bilateral loan-funded projects. For government-owned enterprises, it stands at 1,34,721,932,018 naira only. Those who are at this stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. For multilateral and bilateral loan-funded projects, it stands at 1,155,823,207,500 naira only. Those who are at this stands part of the bill say aye. Those against any the ayes have it. Capital supplementation, FGN Special Intervention Program, Social Housing, Family Homes Fund, Nigeria Youth Investment Fund, counterpart funding for donor-supported programs, including Global Fund, payment of local contractors' debt and other liabilities, Galaxy Bond, GIFMIS, and IPPS Capital, OSAP SDG Projects 1, OSAP SDG Projects 2, OSAP SDG Projects 3, Special Intervention Projects, the capitalization of development finance institutions, Zonal Intervention Projects, Head of Service, Federal Government Staff Housing Loans Board, subscription to shares in international organizations, national development plans, Federal Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning, adjustment to capital cost, contingency capital, grants and donor-funded projects, Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council, PEBEC, provision for the refund of 2 tranches of NHIS deductions, refund of borrowed funds from the Education Tax Pool, TED Fund, transfer of hyperdeck, transfer to hyperdeck, national poverty reduction with growth strategy, FGN commitment, including NSIP, upscaling, restructuring and recapitalization of NIPOST, recapitalization of MOFI. Total capital supplementation stands at 507,808,918,168 naira only. Those who are at this time part of the bill say aye. Those against any the ayes have it. Total capital expenditure stands at 5,415,296,438,523 naira only. Those who are at this time part of the bill say aye. Those against any the ayes have it. Aggregate expenditure stands at 17,319,704,091,019 naira only. Those who are at this time part of the bill say aye. Those against any, the ayes have it. Those in favor of the short title stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Those in favor of the long title on page 1 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Those in favor of the explanatory memorandum on page 11 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Then we go back to the clauses. I will not read the clauses. I will refer to their numbers. Clause 1 is on page 2. Clause 1 is on page 2. Those who are at clause 1 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Those who are at clause 2 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Those who are at clause 3 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Those who are at clause 4 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Those in favor at clause 5 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Those who are at clause 6 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Those who are at clause 7 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Those who are at clause 8 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Those who are at clause 9 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Those who are at clause 10 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Those who are at clause 11 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. We are on page 3. Those who are at clause 12 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Those who are at clause 13 stands. It's not 13. It's okay. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, I rise to move that the chair resumes plenary and report progress. I so move.
Thank you, Mr. President. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, is there any leader? What is it? Conference committee? No, we have not finished yet. I will announce it, but we have not finished. When we go back to plenary. Those who are at the Senate to reverse to plenary for the charity report progress, say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. The Senate in the Committee of Supply considered the report of the Committee on Appropriations on the 2022 Appropriations Act Amendment Bill 2022 and approved as follows. Schedule Part A, total share of Federation revenue as recommended. Schedule Part B, total independent revenues as recommended. Part C, total dividends as recommended. Part D, total aid and grants as recommended. Part E, total special levies and accounts as recommended. Part F, total GOE's revenue net of operating surplus as recommended. Part G, total others as recommended. Part G, total statutory transfers as recommended. Part H, total debt service as recommended. Part I, recurrent non-debt expenditure as recommended. Schedule Part J, capital expenditure as recommended. Aggregate expenditure as recommended. Long title as recommended. Clause 1 to 12 as recommended. Short title as recommended. Explanatory memorandum as recommended. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Board or Committee of Supply? Thank you. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, I rise to move that this bill be read the third time.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that this bill be now read the third time, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to authorize the issue from the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the Federation, the total sum of 17,319,704,091,019 naira only, of which 817,699,410,210 naira only is for statutory transfers. 3,978,110,437 naira only is for debt service. 7,108,621,131,849 naira only is for recurrent non-debt expenditure, while the sum of 5,915,296,438,523 naira only is for contribution to the development fund for capital expenditure for the year ending on the 31st day of December 2022. Third reading.
A bill for an act to authorize the issue from the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the Federation, the total sum of 17,319,704,091,019 naira only, of which 817,699,410,210 naira only is for statutory transfers. 3,978,110,437 naira only is for debt service. 7,108,621,131,849 naira only is for recurrent non-debt expenditure, while the sum of 5,415,296,438,523 naira only is for contribution to the development fund for capital expenditure for the year ending the 31st day of December 2022. Third reading taken, and this bill is passed. Well, congratulations for working so hard to ensure that we pass the 2022 Appropriation Act Amendment Bill. The entire country, or the government particularly, is waiting for this bill to be passed because this is the only way that the government will provide services to the people of this country. Therefore, I commend all of us for giving so much time and effort to ensure that we achieve this. We expect the government, the executive side, to ensure compliance with this act when it is signed by Mr. President. That is to say that MDS should only carry out expenditures that have been approved in the budget. Any other way of expending public fund is illegal and carries punishment or some kind of legal consequences, because that would be unconstitutional. We are in total support of deployment of resources to all those areas that we have provided those resources, and particularly the security sector, where we have so much more challenges than most others. Ours as a parliament is to ensure oversight when this budget starts to be implemented. We must ensure that funds that are deployed, that are utilized, are done so prudently and economically to the benefit of the people of this country. Finally, I want to also commend the members of the House of Representatives for ensuring that we work together to achieve this, because this is a harmonized report that we have worked together with the House of Representatives. With this, leader, what else do we have? So I want to let me find out, clerk. So, distinguished colleagues, because we need this, we need what we have done to be sent to the executive immediately, we have to approve the votes and proceedings before we adjourn. Otherwise, all these things and the waiting that we have done would be totally wasteful. So I urge all of us that we stay for 30 minutes, 20 minutes rather, they say 20 minutes, 20 to 30, for them to produce the votes and proceedings. And we pass the votes and proceedings and then we close. Thank you very much. So the leader, move for adjournment.
Mr. President, I rise to move that we come to the end of today's proceedings. I will ask that the Senate adjourn shortly within a period of 20 minutes. So that we can read the votes and proceedings and confirm votes and proceedings.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate adjourns until 5 p.m. say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. We hereby adjourn until 5 p.m.